Hello there, many thanks for keeping it Y254 in the morning. I am here to talk about the Big Four agenda as the state of the nation. So much noise has been made and so ambitious agendas were put on the table, and we want to see where we are 3 months down the line. We are in March already, the first quarter of the year, and the Big Four agenda seems to have been forgotten. We are speaking about the universal health coverage, food security. Already we have a locust invasion. We have so many reports to be implemented, including the maize one and the sugar in the western region. Keep it Y254 and send in your comments to all our social media platforms at Y254 channel. My handle is at Murani Hillary. This morning I'm joined by political analyst Mathiora Kariara. He's a very famous face to you people. You know, I remember he was in the presidential bid in 2017 and also a sub-chariot political analyst. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Now, let's jump right into the Big Four agenda. Just like I have mentioned, a lot has been said and a lot has been done in regards to the Big Four agenda. When it was fronted before, people said and critics believed it's an ambitious dream. It can't be fulfilled. And 3 years down the line, there is a disruption because of other things the government wants to do, but also we have the Big Four agenda. Remember when we talk about the universal health coverage, we had the Cuban doctors come to our country. Who knows what happens to them? We had the pilot of the universal health coverage to Isiolo, Machakos and Kisumu, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Where's the report? Do we know what's happening? Still on matters health, we have the coronavirus that is being said could be, yeah, we had a scare on Friday, yeah. And it has been watered down. So who knows the truth? We will never know. We are talking about the food security. We have the locust invasion. So without further ado, was it a miss or it's a hit? Kariara?
The Big Four is a miss, definitely, because you evaluate the results on the ground and they do not compare to anything that had been promised. But this is not new. This government has been a spectacular failure from the very beginning. When they came to us back in 2013, gave us their manifesto, you remember how beautiful, how colorful, how enticing it was. Kenyans bought it, believing that even if they delivered just a tiny fraction of it, we would do so much better as a nation. But they did not. So during the second term, even after launching a new manifesto, they condensed that into the Big Four. And given the dry runs they have done, like you just mentioned about the piloting they did on the UHC, well, according to the results they got, they decided to roll it nationally. That's across all the counties. But the reality is, even the pilot scheme was not successful. So you'd ask yourself, why would you go on and roll out the whole thing when the pilot itself did not work? Okay. Even just the registrations themselves, having people subscribe to the UHC, that did not succeed as had been envisioned. Now, we have witnessed government machinery being hijacked for private, personal battles. And that's what has always sold this nation short. Right now, there is a new baby that's been pushed to the people when they should be focusing on delivering on the Big Four.
Okay.
Last week, if I will take you back, we had this incident in Mandera.
Yeah.
We have a defense force like no other in the region, and yet our neighbors in the north felt confident enough to encroach into our territory. Now that speaks of incompetence. So if we are not even able to protect our people, how then can we deliver in housing, matters health, The locusts have been here now, I don't know for how long. Actually, people have even invented new ways of playing games with the locusts. They're even making necklaces with them because the government has failed to act on this menace that's going to threaten our food security. So, to me, I don't think I need to belabor the point that the Big Four is a big miss.
All right, how about you, Cheriot? Was it a hit or a miss, the Big Four agenda?
I want to agree with my good friend here, Kariara. What he said, like almost everything is a miss. This government at the beginning, as we know, our government of Kenya always have good things. They draft good things. It's as good as a bride. Then all of a sudden, they look it went as a miss because they don't implement it. The issue is implementation. Every time they talk of a new thing, like in the new baby my good friend has touched on, it's so good. I mean, it's enticing, but agreeing on it will never happen. The Big Four agenda, at first, it was like, Uhuru Kenyatta was going to leave a legacy on a good Kenya on the side of health. But now when you look at the health, if it was not for devolution, we thank God because of devolution, they devolved some health issues, and now it's working in counties. If it was a national thing, then health it will be in a miserable place now, because the government, the top machineries, like the ministers, are being used in politics. They are losing, they're losing focus. If you see the Minister of Interior Security, somehow is playing major of his work in politics, and like sitting in office and implementing things. What he said about the Mandela thing, we were even like the people were shocked and they were running out of Mandela looking for safety. We were even, the US were almost declaring like Kenya is under armed conflict with the Somalia guys. It's in a miss. When you look at the issue of Locusts, the issue of Corona, we are spending a lot in some things other than like you find like the government is very sharp in spending on the Huduma number thing. They spend a lot of money, around 15 billion. The same case in BBI, the BBI thing, they have spent a lot. And it will not come to help a common mwananchi. Now the real thing is, it's like they are playing games up there, and it's not helping us in reality. So they should just come on, draw a real thing which will help us. The Big Four agenda, it was as good as the Vision 2030, but we are almost reaching there, and we're not seeing even like promising things which they have done to reach their target in 2030. So for me, they're in a mess.
All right, Kariara saying, because now both of you now agree it's a miss, who then can we fault? We have the cabinet secretaries, we have the members of parliament to come up with bills and creating laws that will enable the Big Four agenda being driven to the right point. We have the citizenry. Who do we fault for the lack of delivery?
The buck stops with the president. The cabinet secretaries that you just mentioned, they are appointed by the president.
Right.
And then that chain goes that way all the way down. You go to parliament, the Jubilee Party, of which the president is the leader, has the majority. So if it was about regulation, legislation, they would have it if their desire was to serve. So the buck clearly stops with the president. That's the person we need to blame. And we need to do better than just blame. We need to fire him for failing this nation. Now, it's the Big Four we've spoken about. Over the weekend, or the past couple of days, we've seen the deputy president, that's the other half of the presidency, come out in public and protest that his own security is not guaranteed. When a government is not able to guarantee the security of such a top official, how safe then is you and me who are on the ground, in the hood, in the villages? You see, the failure by this government, like I started by saying, has been catastrophic. The president should have acted. Unfortunately, he's running out of time. We pray to God that this COVID-19 threat does not come to compound the problems you're already facing. Otherwise, things will be very dire. We are talking about development projects, health, infrastructure, housing, creating jobs through manufacturing. All that has failed. But it's going to get even worse if information gets out there that this government is even struggling to pay employees, government officers, and not being paid on time as should be the case, so they can deliver services to the people.
You just mentioned of infrastructure and development, and I remember some of the projects are installed because of corruption cases, like Kimorel and Roll Dams. And I also hear another project that had stopped will now begin very soon. But the question is, does it mean everyone who is on board in this government is corrupt? And then how did we find ourselves here? Because of course the promises were sweet, and when they promise, actually any person who gives you a good deal, you go for it. You don't care how they will deliver it. But then does it mean this government, everyone who went on board, is corrupt?
Hilary, the way to put it is, this government orchestrated and supervised the looting of public resources.
How?
Well, through, number one, borrowing so they could steal. The projects they were supposed to implement, you count them. Take, for instance, the famous SGR. The cost was inflated. And then, besides the feasibility studies that had been done, they came and extended the railway into Suswa. That is straight into nowhere. So it's not delivering results. So you look at this whole system and you look for a particular person to blame, and it has to be everyone in that chain. Like I told you, this system, we think that it is failing, but then it's not failing. It was designed not to work, so that in the inefficiencies, people would enrich themselves. And that's the tragedy of this nation.
All right, Chariot, who would you blame for this fallout of the idea? Everything is going down. Who would you say is to be blamed?
A good question. We know of since the second term of Uhuru Kenyatta as a Jubilee leader, there are some, like, the economy went down. I mean, during the time of Kibaki, the economy was improving, and now it's staggering and even like detrimentally walking down. When you see, like, okay, of course the person to be blamed is the leader of the day. That's Uhuru Kenyatta. We know that every government entity, or let's say every project, as you already said, is enshrouded by messy and ambiguous fraud. That's corruption, and even like a false tender. And what's happening in the country, it's around all the ministries or all the boards in the government are being touched by this monster of corruption. And now, if the leader is silent on the same, because you cannot, okay, at the end of the day, if there is a corruption here, we must know, or if there is a fire which has been lit here, we must know, like, we should get whoever who lit it. You cannot tell me that when Kimorel down corruption thing came, the government must know, like, they know who did that. Like the former NYS case, like we all knew that there are some individuals who were caught. It's so sad that they were taken to court and nothing happened to them. You know, prosecuting a corruption case, it needs a political will. And now, if Uhuru is silent on these things, like corruption, then of course the money will be flying in the people's pockets, and now the economy will be going down, because even those people in offices, they will be working very hard and trying to be very intelligent in how to steal or to corrupt money more than how to improve the economy. You may find someone in the president's office is very busy on looking on some like tenders and how to scoop a thing out of it, how to get a money, how to get in any like a project which has been given. You may find some big staffs in the government trying to get something out of it through corruption, and they'll not be focusing much on providing services to the people or providing like improving economy of the country. They'll be like working for themselves.
Okay.
And that's been happening in most of the big offices here. And now the person to be blamed is Uhuru Kenyatta, because if you are the father of a family and things get like worse in your family, you cannot tell me your wife will be the one to be blamed, but it's you.
All right. So let's narrow down to specifics now. Let's talk about the food security. A couple of weeks ago, I think around 3, we had a report submitted to State House by the Council of Governors Chair and some other officials that were selected to deal with the report on the Mumias Sugar and other companies around that region. That was about sugar. We had another one, a report for the maize, that they need to be implemented. We've been having a problem as a nation, and the Big Four agenda, one of them was the food security. Now, where we seated right now, would we say we are safe in terms of food security? Will we see ourselves go for imported maize or donor funded because we are dying of hunger? Kariara.
Previously, we've had hunger strike this nation, and we didn't have locusts then. Our problem has always been in planning, where we wait and then we're hit by a disaster and then we react. This year, we've had sufficient rains, but unfortunately, we did not plan well enough. So I anticipate a scenario where when the rubber hits the road, we're going to have a worse crisis than we've had before. That is expected. We've had all these reports done scientifically by people who are competent. They've been to the ground, but then implementation of the recommendations, that has always been the problem. I do not expect for this year to be different. Actually, my advice to people is we should be prepared for a worse crisis, so we should be making contingencies plans, because as the government has showed us, they will fall short of the glory of God in delivering services to us. So if you are able to save, prepare for that rainy day, because it's coming. And not just that, you see, if we would have fixed the sugar belt problem, we would have created a number of jobs in those regions. So we wouldn't have people move from the Western Province and Nyanza to come look for jobs that do not actually exist in Nairobi and other urban centers. Something that's causing the crime level to go up.
True.
So the future, as much as I would like to be optimistic and perhaps to find something positive to say about this government, it's very difficult. We as citizens at this moment need to take charge. We need to stop our leaders from dividing us further. We need to make them see that as patriotic citizens, we are paying our taxes. and we are supporting them. Let them focus on delivering in the jobs that we have given them, because number one, they have security of tenure. They get paid, and handsomely so. So a time has come for us as citizens to now read the riot act to these leaders or dealers, whatever they are, because for so long they have served their selfish interests. They have hijacked government machinery for elite causes, and it's going to sink us deeper into the morass that we've been grappling with.
Okay, Chariot, I'll push you to industrialization and housing. We had many people cried out, why would I build some house when I even don't have a job? And most of these people who would be affected are the youth. Now, do you think the youth have been captured in the Big Four agenda so far?
I'm a youth, and in the Big Four, I think like I would wish to think that the housing program by the government, it was good. If they could build houses, I mean, and it's for cheap prices, they give it to people who do, like with a low wage or income. It was a good thing. Before even touching on youth, the housing program, as we have tested it in some areas like Ibra, those people who are like the people who lived there before, those who were evacuated before, and the houses were built in their places, they are not even given the chance. The people who were given the chance to stay in those houses were like their relatives, or those who control it, or the people who can corrupt the system to get a house. Now, like building these houses, it's, as Kenyans, it's enshrouded by ambiguous things like corruption again and nepotism. Because I have a good friend who was given a house, yes, but they were given like they had that, like it was a contract, yes. He had a house, but it was given to someone else again. So there were two in this house, but getting to inside it like he had to corrupt the system to get in. But the person who was conflicting with had a lot of money, and you ended up using the house. Now, as youths, it was a good deal for the government to build these houses. But now, as a youth, you don't know, like you don't know the people who can control. Like as youth, in terms of sociality, we are down. We don't know the big people in the government, and you will end up like will not get to these houses. That's what I know. And for the Big Four, it was only touching on generality. It like there's no specific draft dealing with the youth, because youth, we can only talk of unemployment.
Right.
We will talk of like we should, the government should give us like internships, maybe paid internships, which we have been raising it for a long time, but we have not yet given. So if the Big Four was touching on that, it would be good. But for now, it was just general for the common mwananchi. Allow me to touch on what you said, because I come from a maize farmer's place, so I'm a maize farmer. But now we have these cries, we have our grievances that the government, look here, you guys, you importing maize. During the harvest season in our areas, you're looking like you don't want to buy our maize. You're giving us your bags. These guys, the cartels now chip in and buys maize with like a very, very low prices. Yeah, extremely low. And even for these people, they are poor. They don't have anything else to sell, or anything else to use, and as their normal days, like even to pay fees, that they had to sell it at that low prices. But you find that these people who are cartels, who are buying maize at the time, they are the people in government. They buy maize, they put it in stores, wait for the government to bring their prices back, they sell to them. So it's like a system which has been calculated for the cartels. If the government is like, okay, they used to say government eyes are everywhere, but for this maize thing, they are not everywhere. If the government were opening their
selective
eyes,
amnesia,
yeah, they could have seen this thing, try helping them. Even if you cannot provide for security, provide for food security, because without food, then we don't have life. Yeah. So let me just finish by saying that going forward, we are still crying for the government to buy our maize during this harvest season at even a moderate, a medium. It's not even like a high prices, but a medium prices to help these people because they are poor.
True. All right. Apparently, we are out of time, but I would have loved us to continue with this because we still have so much to talk about the Big Four agenda and its requirement and what has failed and what has succeeded. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. Let me get your final recommendations as far as the state of the nation is concerned with Big Four agenda as the topic. Kariara.
Well, I would urge the youth, number one, to seek out the right information. That will help in governance, because when the politicians come to them to sell them air, they'll be able to call it out. Now, if you know something, do not be selfish to keep that knowledge to yourself. Share it with your friends, with your family members. Let us have this conversation that will help us to lift our nation from the mediocrity we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
Let us kill ignorance. That's the only way we are going to defeat our problems. Kenya's number one problem is poverty. It's not tribalism or this other disunity that people talk about. Let us unite against poverty. Everything else will just fall in place.
All right. Poverty. How about you, Cheriot?
Yeah, to finish on, I want also to add the government of the day that look, you don't have to concentrate on these other things, like prioritize on the Big Four agenda. As you promised us, we have the manifesto for Jubilee. We still have it in our offices. You have not implementation is so low. The Big Four agendas, even like as now the government is united because of the handshake. Yes, please let the two leaders, the opposition, the former opposition leader and our president, concentrate on the things which will help the mwananchi, but not like something which can benefit them all. For the youth, I think like we don't have to concentrate too much on the other things like the BBI. We're not part of this. If we can come out and draw something to suggest for the Big Four, because we have done so, and we're waiting for the government to see, we're waiting for the BBI team to draft the last thing so that we can see if they include what we drawn. We must stand on our side as youth and not supporting the leaders who are just like because they pay us more money, 50 bob, or they can just because they come from our areas. Let's just focus on a good Kenya. The future of Kenya is on us, the youth.
True.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. They have been my panelists, Muthira Kariara and Cheriot as a political analyst this morning. Thank you so much for being part of Y254 in the morning. My name is Dereva Hilary Val is coming up next in the next segment. See you again in the evening. I'll be talking about women and power. Stay tuned. Goodbye.